The serpent in the Citadel. The air in the Evergreen County Superior Court was thick with the suffocating weight of anticipation. Judge Eris Thorne, a figure carved from granite and jurisprudence, tapped an impatient rhythm on his polished oak bench. Below him, Detective Jackson Jacks. Kincaid sprawled in his chair, radiating the smug nonchalance of a man for whom rules were mere suggestions. His bespoke suit and condescending smirk were a second skin, a uniform of untouchable privilege. Then the side door opened and Dr. Alara Vance entered. She was the epitome of unassuming simplicity. Hair pulled back, no makeup, a modest cardigan and practical flats. She blended seamlessly into any crowd, yet her eyes, calm and unervingly perceptive, swept the room, missing nothing. When her name was called, she moved to the witness stand with a steady, unhurried gait. Jackson leaned toward his lawyer, his whisper carrying clearly. "Look what the cat dragged in," he sneered, eliciting a low chuckle from the defense table. Jackson leaned back, already bored. He didn't notice the subtle flicker in Alara's eyes. She'd heard him. She simply folded her hands in her lap and waited. "Miss Vance," the defense attorney began, "what did you witness on the evening of October 21st near the Ironclad Industrial Complex?" Alara leaned into the microphone. "I was present as part of an ongoing surveillance operation. I observed Detective Kincaid conduct an illegal search, confiscate a package, and then release 2 individuals without making an arrest." The attorney scoffed. "Are you claiming you saw the supposed exchange?" "Yes," Alara replied flatly, "and I have the entire thing on video." Jackson's smirk finally faltered. It was just a twitch, almost imperceptible, but in the hushed courtroom, it resounded like a thunderclap. Judge Thorne leaned forward. "You said you were on a surveillance operation. Miss Vance. What kind?" The courtroom held its breath. Alara reached inside her cardigan and produced a leather ID wallet, flipping it open to reveal the unmistakable silver and crimson seal. "Special Agent Alara Vance," she announced, her voice cutting through the silence. "Federal Bureau of Investigation." The air turned electric. The color drained from Jackson's face. He looked like a man who'd just seen a phantom. Alara never took her eyes off him. "For the last 11 months, my team has been conducting a federal corruption investigation into the Evergreen County Police Department, an operation that was, until this moment, classified." She paused, letting the words sink in before locking her gaze on the detective. "You were my primary target, Detective Kincaid." The courtroom buzzed until the judge's gavel slammed down. Alara's voice dropped. "You remember me now, don't you? I was the woman whose car you illegally tossed. The one you tried to intimidate. I was standing 50 feet away when you took that bribe. I've been watching you for almost a year." The defense attorney stood frozen. The prosecutor leaned back, a grimly satisfied smile spreading across his face. Jackson's lips parted, but no sound escaped. To understand how a decorated detective ended up in the crosshairs of the FBI, we have to go back 11 months. The Midwest summer was brutal. Alara sat in a beat-up sedan, her focus on the file on the passenger seat. Jackson Kincaid on paper, a hero. The file told a different story, of missing evidence and coerced confessions. Kincaid isn't just taking bribes, her director, Special Agent Dominic Reyes, had told her. He's running his own protection racket. But he's smart. We need someone inside. Someone he'll never see coming. "You want me to live there?" Alara had stated. "Exactly," Reyes confirmed. "No badge, no gun. We need him to look right through you." So Alara Vance vanished. In her place was Alice, a part-time nursing student with tired eyes. For 11 months, she became part of the scenery. And every night, she documented the insidious web of corruption woven into the community. At the center of that web was Kincaid. 3 months in, she saw him. A black SUV, windows tinted. Kincaid stepped out, all swagger and menace. He walked to a car she'd been watching, leaned in, and took an envelope from the driver. He didn't even try to hide it. From half a block away, Alara recorded it all. Later that night, she uploaded the encrypted file. Asterisk subject Kincaid, J. Made direct contact with known distributor. Received package. No arrest made. Video attached. Asterisk but nothing happened. Kincaid continued to operate with impunity, protected by a department that was either scared or complicit. She remained patient, but a predator like Kincaid eventually notices patterns. He was about to get too close. Ilera became a ghost. She shopped at the discount store, let people see the worn-out look in her eyes, and made sure her presence was forgettable. She was a woman who kept her head down, never made eye contact, and didn't open her door after dark. But behind that facade, she watched. She recorded. She learned the neighborhood's nervous system. She knew the kid across the alley, Leo, was a runner, but he wasn't the target. He was just a thread. And every thread led back to the same name. Even Mrs. Henderson, the old woman with the plastic-covered furniture who saw everything from her front porch, spoke of the rot. "They come around here promising to clean up the streets," she said one evening, her voice a low murmur. "But the only thing they clean out are people's pockets." Ilera simply nodded, absorbing the community's weary resentment. She didn't see Kincaid up close until the 4th week. She was walking back from the store when his black SUV screeched to a halt at the curb. Detective Jackson Kincaid stepped out. He didn't wear a badge. The entitled menace in his posture was identification enough. The street emptied. People ducked into shops or just turned and walked the other way. "Hey, you," he called out. She stopped and turned slowly. He strode up to her. "Haven't seen you around before." "Moved in last month," she said, keeping her voice flat. He looked her up and down, a contemptuous sneer forming. "You with someone?" "Just me, right?" The sneer turned into a grin. He stepped closer, invading her space until she could smell the stale cigarette smoke on his jacket. Her training screamed, but her face remained a blank mask. "Just so you know," he said, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper, "you see anything funny? You come to me, not the others. They don't handle things right." He tapped the cheap bag of groceries in her hand. "Got to keep clean, right?" He walked away without another word. The moment she was inside, the door locked. She uploaded the footage from the pinhole camera on her jacket. Subject initiated contact. No probable cause. Issued implicit threat. Attempted intimidation. That was the first move. After that, he was a constant, lurking presence. He'd cruised through the neighborhood like a shark. She saw him pat down kids without cause, his hands moving with practiced indifference. He wasn't alone. His 2 loyalists, Officers Barnes and Shaw, moved in his orbit, fabricating reports and providing cover for his shakedowns. The pressure escalated. A patrol car would idle across the street from her apartment for an hour at a time. One morning, her trash can, and only hers, was overturned and dumped across the sidewalk. They were testing her, prodding for reaction. She knew she couldn't slip, not even once. Then Kincaid gave her something bigger. A known dealer, Marcus Thorne, had his record mysteriously wiped clean 2 months prior, yet he still operated freely. Ilera followed him one night to an abandoned warehouse. From the shadows, she recorded the whole exchange. Kincaid laughing and smoking, taking a thick envelope from Thorne and handing him a small case in return. It was a direct payoff, undeniable and clear as day. She submitted the footage at 2:15 a.m. The next morning, her water was shut off. Not the buildings, just her unit. The valve outside had been manually closed. Later, her terrified neighbor, Mr. Davies, pulled her aside. "They've been asking about you," he whispered, his hands trembling. "Not the regular ones, the mean ones." The message was clear. They were on to her. The invisible line she had been walking was about to be erased. Kincaid was done testing her from a distance. He was coming for her directly. The game had changed. Kincaid was no longer testing her. He was hunting her. He cornered her one afternoon as she walked home, rolling up slowly in his cruiser. "You seem familiar," he said, his eyes cold and hard. "I don't forget faces." Before she could reply, his gaze dropped to her jacket. "You always record your shopping trips." He smiled, a predator's grin, then sped off. That night, she found a clean, deliberate crack running across her back window. It wasn't a break-in. It was a message. "I can get to you whenever I want." The next escalation came swiftly. Her cousin, fellow agent Maya, was grabbed off the street by two of Kincaid's plainclothes goons. They roughed her up and left her with a bloody lip and a final warning. "Tell your aunt to stop being so damn curious." One of them had growled before dumping her in a park. Ilera clenched her jaw. The threat wasn't just to her anymore. They were closing in on her cover, on her life. She filed a coded report. Asterisk compromise imminent. Subject is escalating to physical intimidation. Asterisk, the reply from her director was blunt. Asterisk, you're close. Do not abort. We are watching. Asterisk. A week later, Kincaid showed up at her door. She opened it before he could knock. "Morning," he said, chewing on a toothpick. "Just checking in. You seem a little tense lately." He glanced past her, trying to see inside her apartment. She stepped onto porch, closing the door firmly behind her. "If you don't have a warrant, officer, we're done here." His smile vanished. "Be careful who you talk to," he said, his voice a low threat. "You might say something you can't take back." He turned and walked away. That night, she didn't sleep. She sat in her darkened living room with her service weapon disassembled on the table before her, methodically cleaning each piece. It wasn't about fear. It was a ritual to remind herself who she was, a federal agent setting a trap. The final move had to be perfect. She met her director, Special Agent Reyes, at a deserted car wash on the edge of town. "He knows he's being watched," Ilera said, handing over a drive with the latest intel. "I can't just catch him. I have to bait him into thinking he's won, that he's turned me." Reyes' eyes were sharp. "You want to let him think he owns you?" "Exactly," Ilera replied. "He's arrogant. He won't be able to resist." The bait came 2 nights later. A text from a burner phone, direct and demanding. "Westwood Scrapyard, 11 p.m. Come alone." Ilera's reply was short. Asterisk fine. "Don't waste my time." Asterisk she didn't wear 1 wire. She wore 4. The scrapyard was a maze of rusted metal and deep shadows. The air was thick with the smell of rust and oil. Kincaid was waiting for her, leaning against a stack of crushed cars, looking completely at ease. He was holding a heavy duffel bag. "Glad you could make it," he sneered. "I was beginning to think you were stupid." "I'm not stupid," Ilera said, her voice steady. Her glasses, a hidden camera, streamed every detail to Rhea's team, hidden in unmarked vans a mile away. "No," Kincaid laughed. "You're just in over your head. See, I run this town, and anyone who wants to operate here either works for me or they disappear." He tossed the duffel bag at her feet. It landed with a heavy thud. "That's a down payment. You're going to be my new distributor on the east side. From now on, you answer to me." Ilera knelt and unzipped the bag. Inside were bricks of narcotics and stacks of cash. "And if I say no?" Kincaid's face hardened. "Then you won't be saying anything ever again." He pulled a gun from the back of his waistband. "This is how the game is played." "No, detective," Ilera said, looking up at him, her face unreadable. "This is how the game ends." On cue, the world erupted. High-intensity floodlights blasted the scrapyard, turning night into day. The roar of engines filled the air as 3 black FBI tactical vans boxed him in. Red and blue lights strobed across Kincaid's stunned face. He froze. His mind-enabled processed the sudden chaos. Before he could even raise his weapon, a calm, authoritative voice cut through the noise. "Jackson Kincaid, you're under arrest for racketeering, drug trafficking, and conspiracy." Special Agent Reyes stepped out of the lead vehicle, flanked by armed agents. Kincaid stared at him, then at Ilera, who was now standing, her expression one of cold professional finality. The smirk was gone, replaced by the dawning horror of total defeat. The final scene wasn't in the scrapyard. It was in a sterile white interrogation room in the federal building. Kincaid, stripped of his badge, weapon, and arrogance, sat hunched in a cheap suit across from a federal prosecutor. Agent Reyes stood silently in the corner. The prosecutor slid a thick binder across the table. "This is everything," he said flatly. "Months of surveillance footage, audio recordings of you arranging bribes, video of you taking payoffs, testimony from a dozen officers you thought were loyal to you. We have it all. Or you can sign this full confession. You will name every dirty cop on your payroll. Detail every crime and resign in disgrace. You'll still do time, but you won't die in prison. Kincaid's face was pale, his hands trembling. He stared at the papers, then at Reyes, then back at the confession. With a broken sigh, he picked up the pen. As he signed his life away, Alara Vance watched from behind the one-way glass of the observation room. She didn't smile. She just watched until the last signature was complete, then turned and walked away without a backward glance. Justice, cold and absolute, had been served.